The morning Kayla was cast out, the sky wept ash from distant volcanic peaks, painting the world in shades of grey that matched the hollow ache in her chest. She stood at the edge of the Thornwood village, surrounded by faces she had known since birth, faces now twisted with contempt, pity or carefully practiced indifference. Elder Myrna raised her gnarled hand, fingers adorned with carved bone rings that clicked together like teeth chattering in winter cold. Kayla, daughter of no one, you have lived among us for 23 seasons. You have eaten our food, sought shelter beneath our hides, and taken a mate bond with one of our strongest hunters. The old woman's voice carried across the gathering like wind through hollow reeds. Yet your belly remains flat. Your blood comes with each moon. You are marked by the spirits as barren ground where no seed will grow. Kayla's hands clenched at her sides, nails digging crescents into her palms. She wanted to scream that she had tried. Spirits know she had tried. The fertility rituals, the bitter herbs that made her retch for days, the prayers whispered to the Earth Mother until her voice went hoarse. But the Thornwood people measured worth in one currency alone, the ability to strengthen the tribe through children. Her former mate, Dren, stood among the hunters with his new woman already swelling with the child Kayla could never give him. He wouldn't meet her eyes. Coward. She had tracked prey through 3-day storms with him, had pulled a cave lion's claw from his shoulder and cauterized the wound with her own hands. Yet when the elders questioned her worth, his silence had been absolute. By the old laws, Elder Myrna continued, we cast you beyond our protection. You will take nothing but the clothes on your body and the knife at your belt. If you return, you will be treated as any intruder with stone and spear. Do you understand? Kayla lifted her chin, forcing her voice steady though her heart hammered like a war drum. I understand that a tribe who discards their own over something beyond control is not worthy of my grief. She turned her gaze across the gathered faces, memorizing each one. I understand that I have hunted and gathered, mended and built, bled and survived for you. That should have been enough. She saw a few eyes drop in shame. Young Tessa, who she'd taught to weave fish traps. Old Bram, whose life she'd saved when fever nearly claimed him. But shame was not mercy. It would not fill her belly or warm her through the killing cold of the approaching season. Without another word, Kayla turned and walked into the wilderness that stretched beyond the village palisade. Behind her, someone began the Song of Severance, the mournful chant reserved for those already dead. She didn't look back. Looking back was for people who still had something to lose. The forest swallowed her whole within a dozen steps. Ancient pines towered overhead, their branches filtering the ash-grey sunlight into shifting patterns on the needle-strewn ground. Kayla had hunted these woods countless times, but always with the security of return. Now each step carried her further from the only home she'd known, into a future blank as fresh snow. She walked until the sun climbed high, then higher still, pausing only to drink from a cold stream and dig cattail roots from the muddy bank. The roots were bitter and gritty, but they quieted the gnawing in her stomach. As she knelt by the water, she caught her reflection. A woman with sharp cheekbones, dark hair tangled with small bones, and feathers she'd braided in for the harvest festival. Eyes the color of river stones. A woman alone. By the time dusk painted the sky in bruised purples and burnt oranges, exhaustion had settled into her bones like winter frost. Kayla found a rocky overhang that would shelter her from the elements and set about making a fire. Her hands worked automatically, selecting the driest kindling, striking her flint knife against a piece of granite until sparks caught on a nest of shredded bark. As flames licked upward, casting dancing shadows on the stone wall behind her, the reality of her situation pressed down with crushing weight. She had no furs for warmth, no stored food for lean days, no tribe to watch for predators while she slept. The wilderness was beautiful and terrible, and it would kill her without malice or mercy if she made even one wrong choice. Kayla pulled her knees to her chest, allowing herself 3 breaths, just 3, of absolute despair. Then a howl rose from below, triumph and terror mixed together. The chief's attention snapped back to the raid, and Kayla saw something cross his face. Not regret exactly, but a kind of grim assessment, like a hunter who finds his trap has caught something he hadn't intended. "Your former tribe is broken," he said flatly. "The survivors will be absorbed into the Stormcrow clan. That is our way. The strong endure," he turned back to her. "You survived 15 days alone in these woods with nothing but a knife and your skill. That requires strength, so you'll kill me quickly. Thank you for the courtesy." The sarcasm slipped out before Kayla could stop it. To her shock, the corner of his mouth twitched. "I am Rorak, chief of the Stormcrow clan. I don't waste resources." His dark eyes held hers with an intensity that made her skin prickle. "You have two choices. Walk back into those woods and take your chances with winter coming and predators hunting. Or come with us. Prove your worth to my people." Kayla's laugh was sharp and bitter. "I've heard how raiding clans treat captive women. You would not be a captive." Rorak's voice was firm, absolute. "You would be a tribeswoman with all the rights and protections that entails. But you would have to earn your place, same as anyone." She studied him, searching for deception in that scarred face. Found only certainty. "Why? You know nothing about me. I know you survived alone. I know you ran toward danger for people who exiled you. I know you faced death without begging." His gaze intensified. "The Stormcrow clan values strength above all else. You have it. The question is whether you have the courage to prove it." Behind them, the sounds of the raid were fading. The choice Rorak offered was impossible. Return to isolation and probable death, or join the very people who destroyed her former tribe. Every instinct told her to refuse, to spit in his face and walk away with her pride intact. But pride didn't fill empty bellies. Pride didn't keep you warm when frost crept across the ground. And something in Rorak's eyes, that direct, unwavering assessment, spoke of a possibility she'd thought forever lost. "Not acceptance, not yet. But the chance to earn it. I'll come," Kayla said quietly. "But I won't be anyone's slave." "Good," Rorak replied. "Slaves are weak. I have no use for the weak." He turned and started down the slope toward where his raiders were gathering their spoils. After a heartbeat of hesitation, Kayla followed. With each step, she left behind the ashes of her old life and walked toward something unknown, terrifying, and perhaps, just perhaps, something like hope. The Stormcrow settlement sprawled across a valley, carved by an ancient glacier, protected on 3 sides by sheer cliff faces and on the 4th by a palisade twice as high as Thornwood's had been. Kayla counted at least 80 dwellings, far larger than any tribe she'd known. Smoke rose from numerous fires, and the sounds of daily life echoed off the stone walls. Children's laughter, the rhythmic striking of tools shaping wood and bone, voices raised in argument or song. The returning raiders were greeted with fierce celebration. Kayla walked among them, neither captive nor companion, intensely aware of the stares that followed her. The Thornwood survivors who'd been brought along, mostly women and a handful of young children, clustered together in terrified silence. She recognized faces. Tessa, who'd watched her exile with shame in her eyes. Bram's daughter, Nira, clutching a child to her chest. They looked at Kayla with confusion, perhaps wondering why she walked freely while they were herded like prey. Rorak's voice cut through the noise like an axe through wood. "Silence!" The celebration died immediately. Every eye turned to their chief. He stood on a raised platform of stone near the central fire pit, and even among these fierce people, his presence commanded absolute attention. "We return victorious," he declared. The Thornwood tribe resisted. Many of their warriors died bravely. Those who survived will be given a choice: join us and strengthen the Stormcrow clan, or leave and take their chances with the wilderness. A murmur ran through the crowd. This was evidently unusual. Kayla saw an older woman with hair like silver fox fur step forward. Her bearing spoke of authority, and the carved wooden staff she carried marked her as a shaman or elder. "You offer them choice, Rorak." Her voice was sharp as flint. Since when does the Stormcrow clan show such mercy? Since I decided our strength comes not from breaking the conquered, but from forging them into something useful. Grandmother Yara. Rorak's tone brooked no argument. The old ways served us well when our clan was small. We are small no longer. We must adapt or stagnate. Grandmother Yara's eyes narrowed, but she inclined her head in grudging acceptance. Then her gaze found Kayla, standing apart from the Thornwood survivors. And this one? She wears no paint, bears no mark of the raid. Why is she here? She will tell you herself. Rorak gestured to Kayla. Speak. Every eye in the settlement turned to her. Kayla felt her throat tighten, her pulse quicken. But she'd faced down charging boar and stalked prey through blizzards. She could face a crowd of strangers judging her worth. She stepped forward, shoulders back, and raised her voice so all could hear. My name is Kayla. The Thornwood tribe cast me out 15 days ago because my body would not bear. The hunt had taken every scrap of skill Kayla possessed. She'd tracked a herd of elk for hours through difficult terrain, studying their patterns, identifying the weakest member, an older female with a pronounced limp. She'd followed at a distance, waiting for the perfect moment, knowing she would only get one chance with nothing but a knife. When the moment came, as the herd paused to drink at a stream, and the lame elk separated slightly from the others, Kayla moved with the deadly precision of a striking snake. She'd leaped from an overhanging branch onto the elk's back, driving her blade into the precise spot where neck met skull, severing the spine instantly. The animal dropped without a sound, without suffering, but killing the elk was only the beginning. She'd had to field dress it immediately to preserve the meat, then construct a travois from branches and strips of hide to drag her prize back. By the time the settlement came into view, her muscles screamed and her hands were raw and bleeding. But lashed to her makeshift sled was an elk that would feed 20 people, let alone 10. The sun hung 2 fingers above the horizon when she hauled her kill through the gates. The gathered crowd parted silently as she dragged the elk to the central fire and let the travois drop with a heavy thud. Rorak approached, examining the kill with an expert's eye. He noted the clean death strike, the efficient field dressing, the ingenious travois construction. Something that might have been approval flickered across his face. Well done, he said simply. Rest tonight. Tomorrow, the second task. That night, Lyra helped Kayla treat her abraded hands with a poultice of herbs and fat. I've never seen anyone bring back an elk alone, she admitted. Most people settle for rabbits or birds, enough to technically meet the requirement, but nothing impressive. I don't do things halfway, Kayla replied, flexing her bandaged fingers. The second task came with dawn. Rorak led Kayla to the base of the cliff face that protected the settlement's eastern flank. See that ledge? He pointed to a narrow outcropping, perhaps 60 feet up the sheer rock wall. There's a hawk's nest there. Bring me 3 eggs unbroken. Kayla studied the cliff. The rock was weathered limestone, offering some handholds, but treacherous with loose stones and crumbling edges. One slip would mean death or crippling injury. And if the hawk attacks? She asked. That's part of the challenge. Rorak's eyes glinted. Begin when ready. Kayla approached the cliff face, testing handholds carefully before committing her weight. She climbed slowly, methodically, refusing to look down or think about the drop below. Her injured hands protested each grip, but she pushed through the pain. Halfway up, the hawk appeared, a beautiful, deadly raptor with wings spanning wider than Kayla's outstretched arms. It shrieked and dove, talons extended. Kayla flattened against the rock as the bird raked past, its claws scraping her scalp. Warm blood trickled down her neck. She couldn't fight it. Clinging to the cliff face required both hands. She could only endure as the hawk made pass after pass, defending its nest with furious courage. Kayla timed her movements between attacks, climbing in quick bursts when the bird wheeled away to line up another dive. Her hands were slick with blood, hers and the hawk's, where she'd been forced to grab its leg during one particularly close attack when she finally reached the ledge. The nest held 4 eggs, each one fragile and precious. Kayla carefully secured 3 inside her shirt, cushioning them against her body. The descent was worse than the climb. The hawk's attacks grew more frantic, and Kayla's strength was fading. Twice she nearly lost her grip. But she forced herself to focus on each handhold, each foothold, blocking out everything else. When her feet finally touched solid ground, her legs nearly buckled. She pulled the eggs from her shirt one by one and placed them in Rorak's outstretched hands. "All 3 intact, you bled for these," he observed, noting her scalp wounds. The hawk was protecting her young. "I respect that." Kayla met his eyes. "I took only what was required, nothing more." Something shifted in Rorak's expression, a warming, subtle but unmistakable. "The 3rd task will come tomorrow. Rest and recover." But that evening Grandmother Yara appeared at the dwelling where Kayla slept. "Walk with me," the elder commanded. It was not a request. They walked to the edge of the settlement, where the land fell away into a valley painted gold and purple by the setting sun. For a long moment Grandmother Yara said nothing, simply gazed at the horizon. "You wonder why I question your place here," she finally said. "I assume you question everyone," Kayla replied carefully. "Smart." The old woman's smile was thin. "I do, but you I question for a specific reason. Rorak looks at you differently than he looks at other women who've passed the proving." Kayla's heart skipped. "I don't understand, don't you?" Grandmother Yara turned to face her. "Our chief is powerful, intelligent, and utterly dedicated to the Stormcrow clan's survival and growth. He has refused every mating offer for 8 years because he believes his mate should be his equal in strength and will. Not physically, he recognizes that's impossible, but in spirit. Why are you telling me this? Because I see how he watches you, like he's found something he didn't know he was searching for." The elder's eyes were sharp as obsidian blades. "And because if you become his mate, you will have influence over this clan's future. I need to know if you're worthy of that responsibility." Kayla's throat tightened. "I haven't even completed the proving. I'm not thinking about whether you're thinking about it or not is irrelevant." "He is." Grandmother Yara's voice softened fractionally. "Your exile was cruel and unjust, but it also shaped you into someone rare. A woman who knows suffering intimately, but hasn't let it poison her. That's valuable. Perhaps more valuable than fertility." The words struck something deep in Kayla's chest. She'd spent so long being defined by what she couldn't do that she'd forgotten to consider what she could. "The 3rd task," she said quietly. "What will it be?" "That's for Rorak to reveal. But I'll tell you this, it won't test your survival skills or physical courage. Those are already proven." Grandmother Yara began walking back toward the settlement. "It will test your heart." The next morning, Rorak came for Kayla alone. He led her away from the settlement, through the forest to a small clearing she hadn't seen before. In its center stood a simple stone altar, weathered and ancient. "This is the Heartstone," Rorak said. "For countless generations, the Stormcrow people have come here to make their most important oaths. Your final task is simple. Tell me your truth," Kayla frowned. "My truth about what?" "Whatever truth you've been hiding from yourself." He moved closer, and she was acutely aware of his size, his presence, the intensity of his dark eyes. "You passed the first 2 tasks through skill and determination. But to truly belong here, I need to know who you are beneath the survivor you've become." The question was impossibly vast and intimate. Kayla felt her defenses rise instinctively. But she'd come this far by facing what terrified her, not running from it. She took a breath and let the truth speak. Rorak was silent for a long moment. Then he reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, his hand cupped her cheek with surprising gentleness. "You already matter," he said, his deep voice quiet but certain. "You mattered when you survived 15 days alone. You mattered when you ran toward danger instead of away from it. You matter because you're standing here, bleeding and exhausted, still refusing to break." His thumb brushed away a tear she hadn't realized had fallen. "Your worth was never in question, Kayla, only your ability to see it yourself." Something inside her cracked open, not breaking but blooming, like ice giving way to spring. "I don't understand," she whispered. "You barely know me. I know enough. Rorak's hand dropped, but his eyes never left hers. The proving is complete. You've passed all 3 tasks. You're Stormcrow now, with all the rights and protections that brings. He paused. But I'm offering you something more. Not as your chief, but as a man who recognizes his match when he finds her. Kyla's breath caught. What are you offering? A mate bond? With me. The words were simple, but the weight behind them was immense. Not because you've proven yourself useful, though you have. Not because I pity your exile, I don't. But because when I look at you, I see strength that complements my own. I see a woman who will challenge me, stand beside me, and help me lead this clan into something greater than it's ever been. I can't give you children, Kayla said. The old wound bleeding afresh. Legacy isn't only blood, Rorak replied firmly. It's also deeds, changes, the mark we leave on our people. We can adopt orphans, mentor the young, build something that outlasts us. His expression softened. I want a partner, Kayla, not a vessel for children. You. The offer was everything she'd stopped letting herself want. But accepting it meant trusting again, believing she could be chosen for who she was rather than what she could provide. It meant being vulnerable in a way survival had taught her to avoid. Kayla looked at the Heartstone, ancient and enduring. She thought of Lyra's words about bending without breaking, about Grandmother Yara's challenge to be worthy of influence, about the 15 days alone that had carved away everything weak and false, leaving only the essential core of who she was. She was Kayla, exile, survivor, hunter, and perhaps, if she had the courage, mate to a chief who saw her as an equal. Yes, she said, the word both terrifying and liberating. I'll stand with you. Rorak's smile transformed his harsh face into something almost beautiful. He took her hands, seemingly uncaring of the blood and bandages, and spoke the ancient words of bonding. Kayla repeated them, her voice gaining strength with each syllable. When it was done, he pulled her close, not as a claiming, but as a welcoming, his arms a fortress and a home. Against his chest, Kayla felt the steady drum of his heartbeat matching her own. For the first time since her exile, she wasn't alone. They returned to the settlement together, and when Rorak announced their bond, the celebration that erupted was genuine and fierce. Even Grandmother Yara inclined her head with something like approval. That night, as the tribe feasted and sang around the central fire, Lyra found Kayla and pressed a small carved figure into her hand, a woman with a spear. Standing tall, "Welcome home," Lyra said simply. Kayla closed her fingers around the carving and looked across the fire to where Rorak stood, his eyes finding hers through the crowd. He raised his cup in silent salute, and she returned the gesture. Home. Not the place she'd been born, or the people who'd cast her out. But this chosen family earned respect, and a man who'd seen her breaking and handed her the tools to forge herself anew. The future stretched before her like unmarked snow, full of possibility. And for the first time in longer than she could remember, Kayla felt not fear, but anticipation. She would build a legacy here, not of blood, but of courage, partnership, and the fierce determination to prove that worth came in forms beyond the ones others prescribed. The fire crackled, the tribe sang, and Kayla, exile no more, smiled.